Hey everybody, another Things with Wings Wednesday. Not sure if I like that or not, but I keep releasing my videos on Wednesdays. Seems to be working out pretty good, and I got a handful of you guys that really like that up and watch the thing right off the bat. I do appreciate that, but got a friends do the old Firebird Friday, so I was trying to come up with a catchy jingle for a Wednesday release for a Firebird video. So if you got one better, shoot it my way. I'd appreciate it. But if not, we're going to stick with Things with Wings Wednesday. On this exciting episode, well, not a whole lot of excitement going on. I need to get the dash painted. It's still an old epoxy primered gray. I decided to convert this car to a black interior. Going to be a black exterior, black interior, so not overly complicated, but gray is not going to work. I need to get that painted before I can stab the steering column back in, which happens to be in pieces. Let me show you. Now, I originally took the steering column all apart so that I could change out the lock cylinder. Years ago, I had to change the lock cylinder because someone, I don't want to get into that, but had to change that. And it didn't match the lock cylinder, the key to the door, and I wanted that fixed. And the other thing is I wanted to paint the steering column. It was blue, so I took it apart so I can get all the pieces all painted black so that it'd work a whole lot more good or match what I'm doing here. So I should have probably got you on the journey taking that apart. This is a tilt wheel. You got to use a special tool to pull the pins for the pivot part to get these pieces out. But this is all the bits that goes inside the steering column. So still waiting on the little switch thing here for the key buzzer. This one's the plastic's pretty brittle, it's starting to chunk apart. So I like to get a new one of those. So that's my hang up on putting the column together. But what I was talking about is, well, the dash is gray. I had this car all sandblasted, all pretty bare metal, but epoxy primed it. I'm gonna get all this gray stuff prepped and painted black so I can put the steering column in so we can go for a drive. All right, well, first off, it's fun. 320 sandpaper. I'm just gonna hit all the dash area here. The only part you'll see on a 69 Firebird is here, under here, and up this side here. This part, not so much. And then the top part across the top of the glass, you're gonna see that. And a little tiny strip, I think, on this side. I have to look. Memory slip, I'm getting old. So I'm gonna get all this sanded down, scuffed, 320, wipe it down, then maybe hit with like maybe some finer grit, 400, 600 grit. Then I'm gonna do a little sealer coat and then semi-gloss black. This is an original back to numbers matching build. This is a resto mod, so I'm gonna call it. So the joy of that is do whatever you want. It's your car. Make it how you want, and whatever makes you happy, what you want to do, that's all that matters. So like I said, I'm just gonna scuff this all down real quick, level it off, do the dash up here and here, get it painted. Take a little closer look, y'all. What you can see is sanded on it, and you'll see a little tiny, it's kind of hard to get in the camera, get the light just right. You see little shiny spots. Now if that was the outside car body finish, those would actually show through the primer and actually kind of, I guess, it make your finish look more orange peeled, so to speak. But as for the dash, that's pretty slick. I may sand a little bit more, see if I can get some of that out, but now I'm being a little bit critical. But you can see kind of the glossy mark here if I catch the light just right. But that's it, just a dash, probably okay, but I might sand on a little bit more anyway, just the same. But I'll keep going on that. Next thing, wipe it down, paint it black. Well, next step is here, get this thing all masked off so I can get it painted. That way I shouldn't take too terribly long. Again, probably not the most exciting video I've ever put out here for the old YouTubes or the old Vinyl Village Garage. You gotta save them birds. It's more or less one of those, you say, steps of the process that's necessary. The detail that goes into these cars to make them super nice, well, it's not always the most exciting. Maybe that's what this video is about, but all those little details, spending this extra time, really sets the car apart as for way it's being nice or being, wow, really nice. So anyway, thanks for following me on this journey. Get this thing taped up, get it painted, and move on to the next part. Not much really masking things off. The glass sits on here. This is still painted the gloss black from under here, but I'm going to go ahead and hit that with a semi-gloss. But first step is just some regular old, I guess I'm going to call it a sealer coat, regular primer. It's actually black, so it'll make a nice base for a black dash. But paint it all out, taped off where the VIN number's at. I'll hit that all the top part of the dash with that primer. This part of the dash we're going to see. Covered my pedals up because, well, they look pretty and I don't want to get paint on them. And we'll get that side little spot over there. Then once that kind of flashes off, sets off, I'll hit it with some same brand, some semi-gloss, and see how this works out. Normally I use a little mixed paint in the old paint gun, but since we're doing just black this time around, this should work pretty good, but I guess we're about to find out. All right, well, wait for that to flash off for a little bit. That's just a flat black primer. laid out pretty smooth, looking out pretty good so far. I'll do the same thing inside the dash. Looks a little shiny still because it hasn't quite flashed off yet. So we'll give that a couple of minutes and hit it with the old semi-gloss black. And I'll say it looks pretty good. Now, here's some pretty cool news. While waiting for that old paint to dry, my missing piece that I need to put the column back together showed up. So let's look at this thing put back together today too. Well, it appears the primer has all flashed off. We're ready to go ahead and put the old top coat on there. So we'll go ahead and get that on. That way it can dry. Looks kind of splotchy, but I think we're gonna be okay. It's also about 50 degrees and relatively high humidity, so this might be a mistake, but I guess we'll find out. Go ahead and hit that with the old top coat and see what it looks like. Okay, we got it all looking much more gooder there. It's gonna take a little time for that to cure. It's a little glossier than it should be, but it laid out pretty even, but I'm gonna leave the masking tape on and paper on just in case I need to put another coat. But so far, so good. Next thing is, let's start putting that steering column together so I can put it back in there and we go for a drive, just like this. And if we get confused on the way, get my laptop out here just in case, just the same. Just for a little more detail in the area here, this is a piece here that actually works the ignition switch. When you turn the key, it moves these on the gears here and pulls this to actually engage or disengage, crank, run, and off. Now, once you get it put in the steering column, it's a little tricky. If you look back here, you see a barb in front of my finger and a little slot. Now, this actually has to sneak in there and hook on those two surfaces. And what happens when you do the tilt well is it gives you the tilt out of it and still can push and pull, I guess you say, the ignition switch on and off. So step one, I'm going to get you in real close. Got to hook that in. If you get it right, it doesn't really move a whole lot. You can actually see if I pull real hard, the little linkage here, I can't really get a grip on it, but it actually moves the ignition switch back and forth. There we go. If I got some leverage on it, you see it's moving. If you got that right, then you know it's hooked in. So that's step one. Get that hooked up right. And the next thing is we put these little pins through that piece there and get it all mounted up. Okay, that's in place. Now the next thing is we got to fish this thing through. I put the handle on because you actually have to release this. The handle gives you something to pull on to get those to pop up because they'll actually slide into here and here, but you got to get the handle to get it to go over it. And then this component slides through this window here, and there's a little spring thing here that actually rides on there. I've actually got it put into place. A little thing in there looks like a little chunk of spring steel, so I can pop it out of here. It looks like this. You're going to need to put this piece back in here first. That lays in there like that. Then you can actually slide this down over, pull the handle, and get that thing into place. All right, now get it lined up. I can put these two pins through the steering column right here. Get that through the side here. Of course, probably get a bigger hammer would work better, right? And you hammer those little pins in. Get this out of the way. That should sit flush if you get it right. There you go. Well, that's still hooked up. Next thing is there's a spring that helps actuate the tilt column. When you pull the lever, it makes the steering wheel flip up. Well, that's because there's a big old spring in there that helps make that happen. So, screw this back in. Flip it all the way up so the column's tilted all the way this way. And you get a big old spring here. I didn't take this apart, but there's a piece here, spring, and that's the top. You'll see the slot here for a screwdriver. You put it in, turn it a few degrees, and it locks it into place. Okay. Nope, I missed. Now that has to line up. Now, what I messed up was that has to line up. There's a little stud inside here has to line up. I missed it, so I'm going to try that again. Let me turn the column this way. Yeah, that feels better. Now I'll push this in and turn it. Oh boy. All right, now spring is engaged. Obviously now it'll spring load up. Yep, spring loads up. Now I push down on it, let off, and flips up. So that's all correct. Now there's an upper bearing. It's already kind of residing in there. There's a race, and there's a wedge that comes in behind it. And of course there's a nut that needs snugged up too. Next, put the nut that actually holds the steering column together. There's a torque spec for that. I'm sure it's probably something like between here and there. We're just going to get it snug, so all we got to do is a little bearing preload. Next thing, snug up the nut here. I got it run down by hand pretty good. Put something on the other end of the steering column. And you get it right. You just want it snug. It's just little tiny bearings, just snug. There shouldn't be any free play on this. That feels pretty good. One of the next things we're going to need to do here, this is the mechanism that actually the lock cylinder turns this gear and actually runs it. So you get that stabbed through, get it in time. There's a spring and a snap ring, a bunch of other goodies. And we've also got the steering wheel lock as part of that mechanism. We're going to try to stab all that in, get it sequenced in time, and then slide the collar down that holds the lock cylinder. These are all the pieces that you're going to need. Part that hooks the lock cylinder, the gear, steering wheel lock, return spring, and this is the screw that holds it on, and there's a little snap ring that rides on the end of this. First things first, I'm going to drop that through. And our steering wheel lock pops in through this hole here. And then the thing to do is get this in time with the gear mounted in there. Now what has to happen is, this is that plastic gear, this is that metal piece we put in earlier, and that's the little screwdriver, or the part that goes into the lock, so this is the other side. I got to push on the front because the snap ring snaps on. This is the steering wheel lock, so it rides in there like that. So you need to push a little further, get the snap ring on, and I'll get this little spring in here. It helps get the steering wheel lock thing to work right. Okay, got it all in sequence, got the snap ring on the end of it. Now this spring, what it actually does, helps actuate the steering pin lock, if you want to call it. It actually hooks behind there on the one end, hooks in here. You get it hooked just right, and then the other part of it here pops into the little gear like that, and there's a screw that attaches it there. So I want to get you up close to see that. I'll get that screw put in here next. Okay, well that's with our spring installed. You can see it hooks on the plastic cam here, hooks around the pin there, the screw in it. So now if I actually return the lock cylinder, it would actually actuate and keep that thing spring loaded so it'll actually move like it's supposed to. I'll work on getting the next part of the puzzle. This part here, the column goes on after, I guess they call this the tilt lever cover. It just kind of lays in here, kind of friction fit, nothing special, no screws, no retaining hardware. That kind of sits, I got a little crooked here. A little keeper back there, and it should just hang over the end here. There's a little notch there, it's supposed to slide over the one in there. Let's see if if I can get it right. There it is. There we go. Now, let me sure I'll slide this cover over the top of the steering column. That's my plastic mallet. Okay, now that's seated. There's actually a few screws that holds that collar into place. That would be these gems right here. Now, with that all done, I can put the tilt column lever back in the side of the housing here, and it can actually stay in there this time. Well, that might be as far as I'm going to be able to go. Next thing I need, we talked about it earlier, I didn't realize it, but I wanted to change the lock cylinder. The next step is put the lock cylinder in, and I don't want to put the wrong one in because I want matching keys again. But if I was really going to go ahead and do it, it's simple as line this thing up, turn it to the run position, and drop it right in. But not going to do it this time. We're going to save that until I get my new lock cylinder. So that's actually probably going to do it. Now, if you get the lock cylinder in, simple as put this turn signal switch back into place. So I might do another part on this video, but until then, I guess I'm kind of on hold until I get my other pieces. Well, that's going to wrap us up this time around, I guess, basically. I've got as far as I can go with the parts that I have. I guess I need a lock cylinder if I put that steering column all together, but the dash paint job gone pretty nice. Now, the weird thing is it's December 31st, last day of the year, 55 degrees in Indiana. Of course, it's already dark out. It's only 6 o'clock, so... But the thing that's really strange, the mosquitoes are out. I've actually smashed about 5 of them. Kind of strange weather we're having here. But besides all that, I'll get the lock cylinder, get that finished steering column, get it stabbed in there, maybe go for a drive. So appreciate you following me on the journey. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you want to see some more of these Firebirds going back together inside and out, top and bottom, every piece, well, that's what we're going to do here. And there's another daggum mosquito. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here before I get my blood drawn to the point where I can't function anymore. So if you guys have ever been to Indiana, you'll understand the mosquitoes. They suck. Anyway, besides all that, appreciate you following the journey, and we'll see you next time.